নমস্কাৰ মই পাৰ্থ আপোনালোকে চাই আছে Candid আজি মোৰ লগত আছে Jahnavi Gogoi Borah all the way from Canada. Jahnavi ba হ'ল Indo-Canadian author. So far she has written 3 books, এখন series Be Good Do Good 2014 আৰু 19 published হৈছিলে আৰু very recently she has debuted as a poetess with the book Things I Told Myself. আজি আমি তেওঁলোকৰ কথা পাতিম তেওঁৰ জাৰ্নিৰ বিষয়ে তেওঁৰ the things that she loves to read and write and maybe আৰু অকনমান ইফালে কথা so Jahnavi ba, welcome to my show.
Hi Partha, thank you so much for having me, and this ifale thing is really intriguing and is kind of has been giving me sleepless nights, but I'm really happy to be here on your show.
বা একদম প্ৰথম মানে মই জানিব বিচাৰিম যে when you published your first series how was the feeling like?
I was ecstatic when I completed the entire series, but it was kind of it happened by accident, because at that particular point of time I had a lot of spare time and I used to write a lot of articles and get it published on various websites. So this opportunity kind of fell into my lap. I did not go after it. A friend of mine who worked in the publishing industry, she approached me asking if I would be interested in writing stories for children. And I was like, I've never done that, but I would like to give it a try. So moi ata sample likhi pele tai keneke pothai dilu after I had a couple of glasses of wine on a weekend, to give me some courage. And within a week or two, I think they got back to me and said that they really liked it, and if I would like to write a series for them. So it happened so easily. I was like very surprised, and I signed the contract. And after that, for a few days, you'll be very surprised to know, I was quite depressed actually, because I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Will I be able to complete, an entire series for children? But my editor was very supportive. Her team was very nice. They gave me very good feedback. And even though a couple of stories came back with major, they told me, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that. This is how the plot line should be. But I did it, and it was published, and it received a really great response from my readers. So yeah, it was an incredible feeling. I don't think I can put it in words.
Coming back to the book again, how difficult or how easy is to write stories for children?
It is actually quite difficult, because you have to restrain yourself from saying certain things, from even using certain words sometimes, because at the end of the day, that young children are reading this book, and with that particular series, it is be good, do good. So it had to have a particular moral at the end, and I had to convey the message in a realistic manner, but with tons of humor. And it was a little bit difficult, but humor is something which comes easily to me. I'm kind of known for saying weird things at the most, at times when I should not, probably. So it easily kind of, the words flowed onto the page. And, even though it was difficult, I think I managed to get the message across to my readers, because those particular books became really popular among children. So yeah.
Coming back to your book, I would like to know that jikhon apni poetry kitab jikhon uliale, how did you conceive the idea? And first thing, and second thing, what's the story behind the name Things I Told Myself?
Okay, so how did I conceive the idea? The first question. So the thing is, I have been now writing poetry for a very long time. Okay, it has been like since I was a teenager, I've been writing poetry. And initially, I was not very confident about my work, but I started contributing to this particular newspaper very popular newspaper, the Sentinel. And I used to have a youth corner at one point of time. And I used to kind of put my poetry there, send my poetry to that particular youth corner. And they got published. And sometimes I would like tiny articles and they would get published as well. And those were the days, when we did not have any access to a computer. So it was all written down, and my dad would go to the post office for me. And it was such an amazing feeling, seeing your name on print, because on weekends, that particular supplement would be published and we would all eagerly wait for it. And then just seeing my name, okay, they published my poem, they published my article. It was really, it made me very happy. It gave me confidence. So after that, I continued to write, and but I did not really have the courage to kind of send it because I did not think that my work is good enough. There are so many good poets. I was full of self-doubt and misgivings. But what happened was during the pandemic, because of the very depressing situation, because of whatever was happening in the world around me, I started writing again. I picked up the pen, and I have this Instagram account called Add a Dash of Words. And that is where I started to, write my poetry and kind of shared it on Facebook. And the response was really good. It was kind of stupendous and it was very motivating. So I thought that, life is so short. And I've always told my friends that one day I'm going to publish a thin book of poetry. That is my dream. And so I started compiling my poems. And in the usual way, I sent my manuscript to my publisher, and they liked it because. And Maushami, of course, I've known her personally as well. She's so motivating, right? She pushes her writers and tries to bring out the best in them. So she approved the manuscript, and this is how things I told myself happened. And as far as your second question is regarding your second question, the title was born out of a conversation with a friend. She and I were once, chatting about how cruel the world is to women. It's a patriarchal setup and this and that, how we have to take care of ourselves because nobody else is going to look after us. And then she told me that, Jahnavi, these are things that no one told me. These are things I've told myself. And these are lines that you will also find in my poem. And I said, wow, you've just given me an idea for the title of my book. And this is how it happened. Like in a 30-minute conversation, I think I came up with the title of my book.
Since you have written short stories as well, and
right.
have written poetry, it is said that poetry is tougher than stories or any prose. Would you agree with that?
That's a tough one, actually, Partha. With respect to both the genres, I actually really respect people who can write short stories, Even though I've written so many short stories for children, I personally find poetry an easier medium to express my thoughts and emotions. It comes naturally to me. I'm good at prose as well, but, I think writing short stories is probably more time consuming than writing poetry. Even though when I write a poem, I do take days and days to edit it. This whole book, for instance, it took about a year. When you look at the poems, probably you'll think, oh, no, these are probably she, just scribbled in a day and just, she decided, okay, this is how it's going to be. But it took me about a year to sit and edit. I sat with a very dear friend of mine and we went through, every comma, every punctuation mark, and every full stop. So for me, I think I find that writing short stories is probably more difficult than writing poetry. But then it's going to differ from writer to writer.
Coming back to our editing part, as well as I said about the editing took you almost a year. So apart from the punctuation, what else do you have to see as a poet while you are editing the book? I mean, why I'm asking this question is that while we write, the emotion comes instantly, the words come up automatically. If you change the word or some phrases later on while editing, the feeling or emotion of the poem changes or it remains intact?
Sometimes I think the essence of the poem might change. The message I want to convey might actually change with the edits that I've made, or when I decide that, okay, this is not a word I want to use, or this is a word I've repeated too often in my poetry. Sometimes that might happen, but I try my best that the message is conveyed, and but even despite all our best efforts, I still noticed a typo the other day, and it's kind of disturbing, but these things do happen. But yeah, like you asked me, yeah, sometimes I decide that, okay, I'm going to edit the whole thing, and I'm going to say something very different now in my poem. So that happens with frequent editing. So after a while, I think, you should just stop and let it be. Because if given a chance, I will just sit and edit and edit and edit, and and I don't know what I'm going to have at the end of the day. So yeah.
But coming back to my next part, you have been my senior in mass communication, super senior basically. And as far as I know that you were also part of one particular magazine. Then so just brief us little about your career as a journalist, your experience, and when did this shift from journalism to literature took place?
I was doing so many things at that point of time. I was also working as a lecturer in a private college while I was attending those classes. So I used to be kind of very tired all the time, to tell you the truth, because those classes used to happen in the evening. And so I started doing that particular, I started attending those classes, and then I quit my job in that private college. And then I was a part-time lecturer in Borah College after that for some time. So I used to teach English literature there. And then I worked for a magazine called The Eclectic for a couple of months. So when we started, it was like a very different kind of a setup. I worked there for a couple of months. At that particular point of time, I was also working for All India Radio as a casual announcer in the Western music section. And I was also working part-time in Northeast Television. I was the Good Morning Girl. We used to host a show called Good Morning Northeast.
Okay.
Yeah. So I worked there for quite a long time, actually. And that show used to happen in the morning. And we used to interview eminent personalities. And we used to read out the newspaper headlines, both Hindi, English, everything, and we used to have a nice discussion. I used to have co-anchors who would do the thing in Assamese, do the anchoring in Assamese, and I used to do the English part. So I actually, people used to recognize me on the streets as, okay, she's the Good Morning Girl. So yeah, that's a bit. I think that's that's a little, about my journalism. What should I say? I can't call it a career, but yeah, I did. Yeah.
ইয়াত মই এটা বস্তু আপোনাৰ পৰা জানিব বিচাৰিম যে অফ লেট এটা বস্তু দেখা পোৱা যায় যে বহুত পাবলিশিং হাউস ওলাইছে who comes approaches writers to be a part of the anthology in return of some money. Do you think যে এইটো এটা legal practice হয় বা এইটো বা আপোনাৰ এই এনেকুৱাবোৰ প্ৰেক্টিছৰ বিষয়ে আপুনি আপোনাৰ what is your opinion about it?
I really feel very bad when aspiring writers, very talented writers, have to kind of, pay money to get published in an anthology. I don't think it's a very fair practice because, I don't know, yes, people do crowdsource a film, but, crowdsourcing a book is something kind of, it is happening very frequently these days in the publishing industry. So you have to look at the credentials of the publisher who has approached you, because a lot of scams are happening in the name of publishing. And you have to kind of do your own research and look at the reputation of that particular publisher who is claiming to kind of, bring out a collection of poems, and who are the contributing writers and poets. You have to look at all that. Are they willing to edit your work? That is the most important thing. Are they even proofreading? Are they even going through what you've written, or they are just taking your money and kind of, just for the sake of it, you're getting published in a book?
Since we're talking about writing, I missed out on a question earlier. I'd like to ask now, how important is detailing in poetry?
I think it's very important. It is of the utmost importance. If you read my book, you will feel that it's a journey. My book is a journey. My book is stories and verse. I've always said this in various interviews. You have to read it very carefully, because these are not just random poems that I've put together, So this is about the journey of a person. I write about the writing process itself. I write about love. I write about unrequited love, one-sided love. I write about separation. I write about the joy of, a meeting between lovers.
Mhm.
I talk about the past, about regrets. And then finally, I come to the conclusion in the book that it is very important to love your own self, to find your identity, and, to accept things as they are, because there is so much beauty in life.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and I've been accused of being in love with love, and I don't want to write about love, but I invariably end up writing about it because I think it's a fascinating topic, right? And I'm not only talking about love between two people, as in there's so many shades to it.
Right.
There's so much yet to be explored, like a friend of mine often says. So yeah, if you read my book, you will find that. So
Uh,
yeah, grab a copy.
since we are talking about love, so while you were writing the book, what was the support like from your love?
From my love. He is not a poetry person at all. He is a tech guy. And I used to read out my poetry to him, and he's very kind enough to lend me his ears. And he would listen to it, and he would just say, "Oh, that's good. It's nice, and it's kind of encouraging." And I would be like, "Do you think that sounds right? Whatever I've written, do you like it as a person who does not read poetry? Do you like what you're hearing?" And whenever I got that particular approval from him, and I would be like, okay, if he's enjoying it, that means I'm writing something sensible.
Others will also enjoy.
Yeah, people should enjoy. I don't write poetry for poets.
Mhm.
I want my readers to enjoy my, poetry. So,
But this is one very important line that you have said, poetry for poets. Rather, we can say that writing for authors. When we write, is it very necessary that writer who is just starting up or is writing his first book, is it very necessary to follow all the grammars that is there in the rule book of how to write a book?
I don't follow it. I follow my own heart. I always have told myself that I'm going to write what I like to write. And I've seen that people kind of enjoy what I write. That is something, but I don't really I don't play to the gallery, like they say. I write for myself. It is important for writers to write for themselves. And even though I keep myself updated, I read quite a lot of poetry these days. I read what my contemporaries are writing. And I've always read a lot. I've been a passionate reader, a very avid reader. But at the end of the day, Partha, you have to find your own voice. And I think I'm doing that. I'm getting better each day. And I think I will get there soon enough. And yeah, fingers crossed, I won't just be labeled as a person who writes about love, because I like to write about all the things that are happening around us. So yeah, one step at a time. And don't get too influenced by what everybody else is doing, do your own thing. You be you.
Right.
That's what I feel.
Recently, the International Booker Prize was declared, and for the first time, a Hindi book has received the award.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to change the way non-English writers from India write? Do you think is it going to give them a hell lot of confidence for the future?
Well, I have always been rooting for our, writers who write in our native tongue, whether it be Hindi, Assamese, Bengali. My mother grew up on Bengali novels. I don't really read much of Assamese books or, Bengali books. But I think it's wonderful. And recently, even Griffin has brought out, I think, books in Hindi, I think. a novel or I don't know, was it a collection of poems in Hindi? And I was very happy to see that. I think this should be encouraged. And there's so much out there, like there's so much beautiful poetry in Assamese. And it's a shame. Sometimes I tell myself that because we went to these, English medium schools and for me, I feel that I should have read more in Assamese. I should have read the novels of Premchand. There's so much out there. So I think this is going to give them a huge boost of confidence to write in, their mother tongue. I'm all for it.
So far, we have spoke a lot about your book, but I would really love that if you can just lift up the book and show your cover to the audience. That's
Can you see
lovely cover. That's a very lovely cover.
Yeah, it has been designed by the illustrator who used to work on my on the series of children that I wrote.
Okay.
Her name is Papya Saha.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's very talented, and she's a she studied in Shanti Niketan. If I'm Vishwabharati, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, she's amazing. She understands me totally.
Would you like to read out any poetry from the book to our listeners?
Sure. So I will not read a love poem,
Okay.
but it is kind of. Okay, so this is a poem called Quiet, and it goes something like this. A graveyard silence descends as skyscrapers brood and streetlights fall asleep. I follow shadows in my dreams. The burning end of a cigarette lights my way as I stumble, my voice stuck in my throat as I call out his name. My feet cold as death itself, but he does not heed my cry. Oblivious on these icy roads that lead nowhere, even as a wraith, he eludes me. Okay, so this is one of my favorite poems. I wrote it about my father, who is no more with us. So it goes something like this. Deuta and his gunmetal hair. I see him most days when the questions have no answers. He is there sitting on the bed, about to make his next move, with a deck of cards. His eyes are the color of water. Ahilima, he says, with a smile as gentle as a moonbeam, truest in the world. Deuta, the magician, the storyteller, the one who opened doors and polished shoes till they gleamed like silver coins. I reply to emptiness now, though his voice remains within, telling me things, chiding me, comforting me. And so, on hot summer days, when my child rushes in, Ahilama, I ask. Her eyes sparkle like a stream in the woods, and her smile is the truest in the world.
This is lovely. This is lovely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll give you a hypothetical situation out here. I gave you 5 of the best fictional characters to be ever created from, say, India. I won't say word, say from India. 5 of the most famous fictional characters created. And you are asked to write a film script in the form of a poetry.
My God.
So in the form of poem. It's a hypothetical question. So who would be those 5 characters?
You, my God, Partha, I really have to think. From India.
Okay, fine.
You mean?
Okay, fine. Choice is yours. 5 your favorite fictional characters.
I really love Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind because, the novel itself has become so controversial these days because of the depiction of slavery and the South. But that remains one of my most favorite novels because at the heart of it, it's a love story. And it's about resilience and about this wonderful woman who's determined to overcome all odds and give herself, a happy ending. So Scarlett O'Hara is one of my favorite characters. Who else? My God. My another favorite novel was The Godfather. Michael Corleone. Yeah. Michael Corleone. Yeah. So yeah, those gangster vibes of his. Sometimes I've thought, it would be so nice to know a man like that. Such a powerful man. Who else? Now that One of my other favorite novels was Wuthering Heights. As a literature student, it was mandatory reading, and it was very interesting as well. So yeah, the main characters, I guess, Heathcliff and Catherine, their love story is kind of, it's a very haunting tale of lovers separated and, kind of still, nothing can actually separate them. And what else? 5, right?
5,
You
yeah,
want
3 to 5.
Oh my
No,
God.
you have completed 5. 3,
Have I?
yeah, 3 to 5, 3 from Wuthering Heights and 2 from the other books.
Have I completed?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I can't think of anybody else.
But yeah, there is one more thing that I like to ask, that pandemic has been more depressing than something to cheer about. But still, if one positive you found during this pandemic, or you will take out from this pandemic, what would that be?
The realization that life is so fleeting, that life is so unpredictable, and that we have to find joy in the little things.
True.
And I realized that, just being able to get up in the morning, just being able to breathe, that actually is a gift, don't you think? Life is a gift,
Very much.
and we have to make the best of it. That is something that I realized during the pandemic.
So we have almost walked to the edge of this interview. So before we wind up, I'd like to have share any message that you'd like to give to any aspiring author who would be watching this interview.
I would just like to say one thing, don't get disappointed. Keep on writing, keep on trying, keep on submitting your work, and keep on read other writers, and but try and always find your own voice, find your own style, and always edit and proofread your work. Do not leave it to others. Have faith in yourself, and it will happen. You will get there. So be positive. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jahnavi, for talking to me, for speaking to me, and for coming to my show.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who has watched the show till the end. Please keep shouting your love to me. Keep subscribe to my channel, and until next time I come again with another guest. Keep rewatching this interview. Until next time, take care.